began with a single gunshot in Sarajevo, but what followed reshaped the world forever. This is the story of World War I, the war that changed everything. Number 1. Introduction. The spark that lit the fuse. The year was 1914. Europe was a powder keg of tensions, alliances, and ambitions. For decades, the great powers of Europe had been building up their militaries, expanding empires, and forming secret alliances. Nationalism was rising, empires were fading, and the continent was on edge. Then came June 28, 1914. In Sarajevo, Bosnia, part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne, was assassinated by a young Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. This one event triggered a chain reaction. Within weeks, the world was at war. Number 2. The web of alliances. Why everyone got involved, but how did one assassination spiral into a global conflict? The answer lies in the complex web of alliances. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and declared war. Russia, allied with Serbia, mobilized against Austria-Hungary. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia. France, allied with Russia, joined in. Germany invaded Belgium to get to France, prompting Britain, protector of Belgian neutrality, to declare war. In just a few days, Europe was engulfed in a war that would last more than 4 years. Number 3. The major powers and their motives. Let's look at the key players and what they wanted. Germany. Ambitious, powerful, and rapidly industrializing, Germany sought to challenge British dominance and expand its influence. Austria-Hungary, an aging empire struggling to maintain control over its diverse population. The war was a chance to reassert dominance. Russia, desperate to protect Slavic nations and gain access to warm water ports, Russia saw the war as an opportunity. France, still bitter over its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, France wanted to reclaim lost territory, especially Alsace-Lorraine. Britain, the world's largest empire, aimed to preserve the balance of power in Europe and protect its global interests. Number 4. Trench warfare. The stalemate of the Western Front. By late 1914, the war had become a brutal stalemate, especially on the Western Front, a line stretching from the North Sea to Switzerland. Here, trench warfare defined the conflict. Soldiers lived in muddy, rat-infested ditches. Between them lay no man's land, a deadly space filled with barbed wire and the constant threat of machine gun fire. Battles like the Somme and Verdun became symbols of horror. At the Battle of the Somme in 1916, over 1 million men were killed or wounded. At Verdun, the French and Germans fought for 10 months, nearly 700,000 casualties. New weapons made the war even more deadly. Machine guns, poison gas tanks, flamethrowers, artillery shells that shook the earth. War had never been so industrialized or so horrifying. Number 5. The global nature of the war. Though centered in Europe, World War I quickly spread across the globe. The Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers, bringing the Middle East into the war. Japan, allied with Britain, attacked German colonies in Asia. Fighting erupted in Africa, where colonial powers clashed for control. India, Canada, Australia, and other colonies sent troops, fighting and dying far from home. It was truly a world war, one of empires and colonies, kings and commoners. Number 6. The home front. Life behind the lines. While soldiers fought on the front lines, civilians endured their own battles. Economies shifted to wartime production. Women entered factories in record numbers, replacing men who had gone to fight. Food shortages and rationing became widespread. Propaganda spread through posters, newspapers, and films, glorifying the war and demonizing the enemy. Entire societies were mobilized for the cause. And as the death toll climbed, morale at home and at the front began to crumble. Number 7. The United States enters the war. For years, the United States remained neutral, watching from afar. But in 1917, things changed. German submarines began unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking ships without warning, including American vessels. The Zimmermann Telegram, a secret German proposal to Mexico to join the war against the U.S., was intercepted and made public. President Woodrow Wilson, once committed to peace, now called for war to make the world safe for democracy. The U.S. entered the war in April 1917, providing fresh troops, supplies, and morale. This would tip the balance. Number 8. Russia withdraws. Revolution and chaos. Meanwhile, in the East, Russia was unraveling. Years of war, food shortages, and political corruption led to the Russian Revolution in 1917. The Tsar was overthrown, and eventually the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power. Lenin wanted peace. In March 1918, Russia signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, exiting the war. Germany now turned all its forces to the Western Front, hoping for one last victory before American troops arrived in full force. Number 9. The Endgame. 1918 and the collapse of empires. By 1918, the tide had turned. The spring offensive, Germany's last desperate push, failed. The Allied powers, now bolstered by American forces, launched a counteroffensive that broke through enemy lines. One by one, the Central Powers fell. Bulgaria surrendered. The Ottoman Empire collapsed. Austria-Hungary dissolved into chaos. And on November 11, 1918, Germany agreed to an armistice. The war was over, but the cost was unimaginable. Number 10. The Aftermath. A changed World War I left behind a scarred and broken world. Over 20 million people were dead, civilians and soldiers alike. Another 21 million were wounded. The map of Europe was redrawn. The Austro-Hungarian Empire disintegrated into new nations: Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. The Ottoman Empire became Turkey and several European-controlled mandates. Poland re-emerged after more than a century. Germany was forced to accept responsibility for the war. At the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, harsh penalties were imposed on Germany. Massive reparations, loss of territory, military restrictions, the infamous war guilt clause. Many Germans viewed the treaty as a humiliation, a sentiment that would fester and grow in the years to come. Meanwhile, the League of Nations was formed, a precursor to today's United Nations, meant to prevent future wars. But without the U joining, it lacked true power. Number 11. Legacy. The war that changed everything. World War I changed the world in countless ways. It ended centuries-old empires and ushered in new nations. It redefined warfare, introducing industrial killing on a massive scale. It changed social roles, especially for women and colonial subjects. It sowed the seeds for World War II, just 2 decades later. For many, it shattered the belief in progress and glory. The world had entered the 20th century with optimism and confidence. It emerged from the war wounded, disillusioned, and wary of what the future might bring. Number 12. Closing. Remembering the Great War. World War I is sometimes overshadowed by the Second World War, but it remains one of the most transformative events in modern history. The war memorials, the poetry, the silence of November 11th at 11 a.m. These are reminders of the millions who suffered and died. And the lessons of diplomacy, of hubris, of violence, remain as relevant today as ever. Because World War I wasn't just a war of the past. It shaped the world we live in now, lest we forget. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more deep dives into history. Share this video to keep the memory alive.